The thing is, they didn't stay dead. Every 10 days, the virus will adapt, making the zombies bigger, stronger, and faster. And as the days go by, the virus will begin mutating zombies. So I'll need to be very careful. To make matters worse, the oceans are filled with great white sharks and killer whales, so say goodbye to swimming. The only way I'll be able to travel between biodomes is through the underwater tunnels that link them together, which also happen to be full of the dead. Each biodome has a different size and different things inside it, which will be key for me to get resources if I have any chance of surviving. And to top that, every 10 days, a blood moon will happen, which will spawn hundreds of the undead around me. Also, this is hardcore, so if I die, then I'm dead forever. In this video, I have one goal: survive 100 days in this zombie apocalypse. This is gonna be hard. Day 1. I was alone in a huge glass sphere. I could see a few of the dead emerging from the tunnels. I knew I had to get resources and a shelter as fast as possible, otherwise I wasn't going to survive the night. It was on day 1 that I killed my first zombie. I had to take it out with my bare hands. I didn't know then, but it'd be the first of many more to come. I quickly began gathering supplies. I chopped down trees for wood, and I picked wild fruits and seeds from shrubs on the ground. I then crafted my first pickaxe, which I used to acquire stone and coal. I used these resources to craft a set of stone tools, including a stone battle axe, to help me deal with the locals. As the sun got lower and lower in the sky, I knew I had to act fast. I ran to one of the tunnel entrances and towered up. I hoped that the dead wouldn't be able to reach me up there. I constructed some walls on the platform, just to be safe. Then, on my first night ever at Blood Moon, whoa, there's so many! How on earth am I gonna survive this? I stayed the rest of the night up there, thinking of a plan of how to deal with the dead in the morning. Day 2, I went for it. I lured the dead over to one of the tunnels and quickly pillared up. I trapped them behind the stone walls. I began working on a farm, planting whatever seeds I could get my hands on. I also found a cave where I gathered my first bits of iron. That evening, I decided I was going to need a bed, so I crafted some shears and quickly ran out into the dark to get some wool. The dead nearly cut me off, but I got back in one piece. I then crafted an iron chestplate as well as a bed, and an iron battle axe. I couldn't sleep that night though, as the dead were too nearby. On the morning of day 3, I once again lured the giant horde away from the shelter. Trapped them at the tunnel entrance. My food situation was a big problem. The berries I had would barely fill up my hunger bar, so I continued expanding the farm. So that I wouldn't have to lure the zombies away every morning, I began work on a trench under the tunnel entrance. When night fell, I pillared up and tried to place the bed and sleep, but it wouldn't work. It was at this moment that I realised I was going to have to survive the next 97 nights without sleeping. Day 4, I went down to below the tunnel, and thankfully my trench idea had worked. The dead that had come in the night were mostly trapped. I made a fenced area and started a sheep farm. I also spotted a walrus living like a king. In order to collect important resources, I went mining for the rest of the day and through the night. On the morning of day 5, I realised I made a huge mistake. Oh no, this is bad. How am I gonna get out? I searched for a different way out, but when I broke the surface, the dead would pile down on top of me. After a long struggle and a lot of dismembered limbs, I managed to escape the surface. I then took out the rest of them with my battle axe. On day 6, I decided to journey through one of the tunnels. Once I'd fought through the dead, I found a large abandoned city on the other side. The more of the city I explored, the more of the dead I found. This was a dangerous place to be, with just a chestplate and a battle axe. However, there was very valuable loot all over the place. There was food, metals, and weapons hidden in and around each building. I parkoured from roof to roof, clearing out what I could before nightfall. There was tons of gunpowder, which I knew I could use to make bullets later on. After scaling and entering the largest skyscraper in the city, I found something incredible: a chainsaw. I had found 2 fuel canisters around the city as well, so I had plenty of power. I also grabbed some books and string wherever I could. I noticed an anvil was lying on the back of a building, so I took it. Looking around the city, I found enough iron to craft some more iron armor. I then used my chainsaw to forge my way through as many of the buildings as I could. Day 7, I made my way back through the tunnel. When I got back to the shelter, I began researching how to make a revolver. I then started crafting all the components I would need. I also crafted a bunch of bullets I would need for the gun, out of copper and gunpowder. It was then that I realized I didn't have one of the components, graphite, which could be mined underground. On day 8, I started by clearing out the trench. Then I went on the hunt for some graphite. It took me a while, as it looked very similar to lead, but I found tons of the stuff. I also axed a very angry bird and got some bird meat. In the evening, I got crafting, using the graphite I collected. I'd done it. I'd made my first firearm. It wasn't much, it only held 6 bullets at the time. But it did the trick. When the sun rose on day 9, I cleared out the trench and collected some wood. I wanted to construct a proper base. I started by flattening out the ground in the center of the glass sphere. On day 10, the zombies looked like they'd evolved. They were slightly faster and slightly bigger. I took them out with my gun and chainsaw regardless. However, I had a problem. Because the zombies were bigger now than 2 blocks, they were no longer falling in the trench. I continued flattening out the ground. Then I started constructing my house. That night, there was a blood moon. I quickly hurried back to the temporary base and waited out the rest of the night there. On day 11, I dug the trench deeper to make sure the dead all fell in. I started construction of a new perimeter fence around my new house. This would allow me to work on my house overnight. That night, I made a mistake. The dead were jumping over the fence on my crafting table. After battling the dead for most of the night, I managed to secure the perimeter fence, but the dead kept getting in somehow. On day 12, I went mining, where I found a cave full of the dead. I then crafted and began placing cobblestone walls around the base of the perimeter fence. I think it looked pretty good, and it was practical. I continued working on the house overnight. Day 13, I worked on the oak walls and spruce pillars of my house. I used some oak stairs to give the windows a little more depth. On the morning of day 14, I led the giant horde away from the perimeter fence. I also created an airlock system to get in and out of the compound safely. I then spent the night working on the start of a watchtower, as well as the fir wood roof. On day 15, I constructed the watchtower built into my house. Day 16 was a great day, the day I found my pet tortoise. Well, technically it's a turtle, but we'll call it a tortoise, for reasons I'll explain later. I managed to get him inside my house, then I went bird shooting to collect some food. On day 17, I did some research into different food types. I also began digging a huge trench outside the perimeter. I started a farm within my compound, as my food situation was looking a bit dire. Days 18 and 19, I continued working on the trench. I needed it to encircle the whole compound. I started constructing an enchantment area on the 2nd floor of my house. I also placed some trapdoors, hoping it would trick the dead into falling into the pit. On day 20, I decided to go and explore another city down one of the tunnels. When I entered the tunnel, I noticed the dead were getting even bigger and faster. Once I had reached the other side of the tunnel, I spotted some cows. I quickly hurried back and grabbed some wheat, then set about getting the cows back home. I had to get them back home before nightfall, which proved tough while fighting off the dead. On day 21, I finally managed to get the cows into the safety of the perimeter fence. I then decided to go back out to the city and begin exploring. When night fell, I took refuge in an abandoned library. Stored in the library was some incredibly good loot, including a totem of undying, which was going to be key to help me survive this. I gathered the books and practiced with my new spears, then I set back out to explore the city. In the early morning of day 22, I reached the top of the main building in the city. It was there that I found the best loot yet, a pump-action shotgun, tons of metals, as well as a hand grenade. I also found an enchantment table and some more chainsaw fuel. I used my awesome new shotgun to shoot my way back home. Once I was back, I got to work on a proper enchantment room upstairs. However, I didn't yet have any lapis. That night, I took my shotgun for a test drive. That night, I also named my tortoise. I'll let you figure out why I chose that name. On day 23, I was running low on food, so I did some farming. Then I decided to go exploring, in hopes of getting some clay, which I would need to craft cooking utensils to make better food. I grabbed some more clay blocks for building along the way. I searched a few spheres, but I had no luck. I also chainsawed an angry pig, then I headed back home. I was very pleased with how the base was coming along. On the morning of day 24, I collected some fir wood. Then I worked hard on completing the perimeter trench. On day 25, I took out a few cows for leather. I used it to craft a beekeeping hive. I hoped I could use it to make honey for food. On day 26, I realised that in order to get honey from the bees, I would need a presser, which required redstone, which I didn't have yet. I also made a bow and put the arrow recovery book I found on it. It didn't seem to do too much. Anyway, who wants to use a bow if you have a shotgun? It was on day 27 that I began thinking up ways of taking out the dead that fall into the trench. I tried a flint and steel, but the fire would go out. I didn't have any lava either. I spent the night lighting up around the base. On day 28, I took out the dead outside my house. Then I proceeded to make the trench much deeper. I also dug a trench within the trench. That night it actually worked, and they were pushing each other into the pit. The following morning, on day 29, I began extending the compound entrance so that I wouldn't immediately get attacked when I exit the base. I also made a minecart so I could do drive-bys while going down the tunnel. I then decided to go exploring once again. No. Abandoned ship. I got trapped and I had to wait out the night on the tunnel entrance. On day 30, the dead evolved once again. They got even bigger, stronger and faster. It was increasingly harder to evade them. While I was running away from the dead, I luckily ran into a pool filled with clay. Then I got even luckier. I found a large pool of quicksand. I grabbed as many buckets of it as I could, then I headed home. But then, suddenly, there was a blood moon. I ran for my life, and took refuge on top of a tunnel entrance once again. On day 31, I finally managed to get back home. I made an apple tree sapling and planted it outside the base for extra food. I did lots of farm work and began making some pineapple yogurt, which turned out to be a terrible food source, but oh well. Day 31, I did some quicksand experimenting in the trench. It didn't kill the dead as I'd intended it to. I then made a quicksand trap on the outside of the base. However, the dead didn't seem to fall for it. On day 33, I decided to venture outside of the dome for the first time. Because it was winter, there was a thick layer of ice over the water. I then climbed up the dome to see the base from above and enjoy the view. I also built a dirt flag. On day 34, I sat on the ice flats fishing. It was on this first day of fishing that I got an insanely good book, which had infinity and protection on it. On day 35, I continued fishing. However, an enchanted book I just got slipped down and sunk until I hit the top of the tunnel. I went to go retrieve it. Luckily, it was a protection book. I also hit some 360s. On day 36, I kept on fishing, and I got my third protection book in a row, which is insanely lucky. On day 37, I went home and did some more research into food. I decided I was going to make honey bread, as I had all the resources I needed. On day 38, I went mining for redstone, as I needed it for the presser to extract honey for my honey bread. I then set up a honey bread assembly line, using all the resources and utensils required to make honey bread. On day 40, the dead evolved once again. However, the first thing I noticed, the walrus was way bigger. I felt this might be a sign of things to come. On day 41, I decided to journey to find a city. I travelled really far for this one. I eventually found a dome filled with permafrost and hot springs. I ended up taking a bucket of hot spring water, as it gave regeneration when you swam in it. I then began clearing out the city. It was on this mission that I found my bat, a weapon that would become incredibly important later on. However, I ended up finding something really disturbing. The zombies were beginning to mutate. The sounds they made weren't normal. Oh jeez, that nearly gave me a heart attack. A little bit. Oh, okay. Day 43 was the day I decided I wanted to go shark hunting. I felt quite confident. I had a boat and a shotgun. What could possibly go wrong? This is what happens in Jaws. This is what happens in Jaws.
I'm in danger!
No, please. I'm so dead. No. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. But luckily I got to the dome in time, where I massacred the helpless sea creatures with my revolver. I then headed home. On day 44, I went back up to fish. However, the sea over the tunnel had nearly frozen completely, which I was using as a safety net, in case things fell down, so I made an ice fishing hole. On day 45, I continued fishing to get as much food and enchanted books as possible. On day 46, I set out on an adventure. Firstly, I came across this big guy. The fact he was so huge was starting to make me wonder if the dead were mutating larger too. On day 47, I came across a large abandoned city. However, dead were close on my tail. I began hearing strange sounds, unearthly sounds from deep underground. On day 48, I came across the basement where the sounds were coming from. What the? Oh jeez, well that doesn't look very friendly. Whatever these things were, they weren't human anymore. Die. Oh god. The virus had clearly mutated them to extreme levels. They also had far more health than usual, and were far stronger. Hey, you guys don't look too healthy. You should probably get that spine checked out. Eventually, I was able to take out the spawners and loot the chest. It was there that I found my Spaz 12 shotgun. On day 49, I continued exploring the city and taking out the dead. In one of the basements of the skyscrapers, I came across a huge ravine carved into the dome. That's where I saw it. Lava, tons of it. Day 50. The zombies began evolving once again. I also spotted some pumpkins, but I couldn't grab them due to all of the dead. I knew I was going to need that lava from the ravine for my trench at home, so I hurried home as fast as I could. On day 51, I completed my enchantment area. I also made a diamond chestplate and used the books I got from fishing, along with fresh armor. On day 52, I made my way back to the city with the ravine. I carefully ventured down into the basement. On day 53, I journeyed down the ravine to find a pool of lava. When this happened. Oh no! Please, no. Water! Jeez, that was close. That was so close. I spent the rest of the day fighting off the dead in that cave. On day 54, I realised that the dead were appearing faster than I was taking them out. I decided to pillar up and worked my way over to the lava pit. I luckily found some lapis, and I grabbed as many buckets of lava as I could. On day 55, I got out of the ravine and then made my way home. Whoa, that was a lot of zombies. On day 56, I put my buckets of lava to good use. I began pouring them all over the trench to take out any dead that weren't lucky enough to fall in. On day 57, I did some totally humane cow farming. On day 58, I used the pumpkins I collected to make an iron golem. It had a large slab for a forehead, so I gave him an appropriate name. On day 59, I decided it was time to ramp up my firepower, so I set about making myself an RPG. Oh no, I'm so stupid. I blew myself up. There goes my totem of undying. On day 61, I decided I needed to go back out, search for another totem of undying. This time, I wanted to go by boat. However, it was so foggy, I had to wait until the next day. Day 62, I headed out to find the totem. I came across a huge city that I hadn't explored before. I used water to go down to the ground. First building I entered had something weird about it. I could hear strange noises. When I headed down to the ground floor, I found these strange looking dead. They had hazmat suits on, and the room looked like a makeshift hospital. Something bad happened here. Okay, let's get rid of you. On days 63 and 64, I continued exploring the city. I found tons of gunpowder and ingots. However, unfortunately, no totem of undying. On day 65, I came across a huge open building, which looked like it used to be a cafeteria. There was an abundance of the dead inside, but there was also some incredible loot. In the first chest alone, I found an Uzi and a tactical tomahawk. On the second floor, the chest had a steel spear and a totem of undying. Mission successful. On day 66, I discovered possibly the coolest thing yet, a double-barrel shotgun, which reminded me of the Blundergap from the Alcatraz map on Call of Duty Zombies. I also did a bullet spread test on the Blundergap, and wow, it really did some damage. On the night of day 68, I was looking around the city when I saw this. Whatever it was huge. I went down to get a closer look, but when I got there, it was gone. On day 69, I did some enchantments, and I found some incredibly valuable sand for glass to finish my windows. Then I decided it'd be best to head home. I had cleared out most of the buildings, and I wanted to leave before any other huge creatures arrived. On day 70, the dead had evolved, but not like usual. They got smarter, much smarter. Now, they could build. No. Please, no. In the morning, on day 71, I realised I had a massive problem. The dead could now build out of the perimeter trench. Not only that, but they had placed blocks on my lava sources. It was on this day that the first of the dead got into the compound. Oh, no. Please, no. How on earth am I going to survive another 29 days of this? There's no way! On day 72, I fixed my badly damaged armour and began repairing the base by digging out the trench. However, that night, the dead built a bridge across the trench over the wall. Oh no. Okay, this is bad. They were getting in. This was a code red. All night, I had to fight them out of the base. On the morning of day 73, I took out what was left of the remaining dead. They had caused some serious damage over the last few days. Something had to be done. And so, I began figuring out how to stop the dead from climbing over the walls. I started by again clearing out the trench, but that was just slowing them down. My first thought was to use trapdoors on the exterior of the walls to stop the dead from building up high enough to jump over. It got too late to enact my plan though. That night, I ran over to the temporary shelter and grabbed the glass I had left in the chest, and I combined it with the glass I found on my last adventure, which was enough to finish the windows of my watchtower. If they were going to destroy my house, I was at least going to finish it first. The next day, on day 74, I had to clear out the trench and the dead once again. Then I began placing all of the wooden trapdoors on the outside of the walls, hoping to avoid a World War Z situation. I tried my old lure them to a tunnel entrance trick, but it didn't work of course. They can build now, so I got rid of them the old-fashioned way. That day, I also made the walls 2 blocks higher because they were jumping over the trapdoors, but for the most part, it was working great. From day 76 to 78, I worked on creating a redstone trap that used a note block with sound to lure the dead into a quicksand trench. On days 79 and 80, I dug the trench much deeper. On day 81, I harvested some wood and made a ton of signs, my thought being that if I placed the signs at the bottom of the trench, it would stop the dead from towering up. Day 82, I placed all of the signs covering the entirety of the trench. On the night of day 83, it happened. The mutants arrived at my base. No, this is insane! How the hell am I supposed to live? It was a hard-fought night, but I survived. On day 84, I made a choice. I had a feeling the dead would be back very soon, and in greater numbers. I was going to need even more firepower, so I made a minigun. On days 85 and 86, I took the minigun for a test drive. On day 87, I was running out of ammo, so I went up to the ice flats for a breather, but all of the ice had melted, which presented a bit of a problem, so I went back down to the surface. I continued fighting. Day 88. Oh, okay. I think Harry Kane was freaking out from all the explosions. On day 89, I grabbed my last supplies of food and began reloading and preparing for the battle ahead. The sun was setting on the final days of peace in the compound. Day 90. Suddenly, they had learned how to break blocks. I decided I wasn't going to run though. I was going to defend my home. Hundreds of the dead that used to be stuck in the trench began mining up through the ground. Luckily, the iron golems were doing a great job of taking them out. The zombies began breaking their way through the iron bars on the front entrance. I had to barricade it with cobblestone. Zombies that held pickaxes and shovels were incredibly quick at mining through all my defenses, carving the way for others to get in as well. I was growing concerned. I didn't have enough ammo to keep this up for 10 days straight. I knew at some point I'd get overwhelmed. Oh, what the? I went outside in the morning to inspect the damage. And this happened. Oh, no, please. Oh god, no. Please. Oh god, no. Build. Luckily, my armor held up well, and I survived without a scratch. The dead had carved a staircase into the foundations of the compound. No. I'm so dead. No, I want to live. I want to live. Mine. Oh god, I can hear them all. They're right there. No. No, please. Spring water. Give me regen. Oh my god. As to how I escaped that, I have absolutely no idea. I held them off for ages with just my bat, using cobblestone to plug the holes. I held them at the wall of the compound for a long time. I nearly died countless times. But eventually, I got overrun, and I had to fall back to the house. The dead started breaking through the floor of the house. I fought them there for days, but eventually my armor began breaking, and I had to go repair it. But when I went back downstairs, it was too late. That was the last time I saw Harry Kane. I retreated to the watchtower. One night, there was a blood moon, and huge mutants arrived at my base. On day 99, they overran my house. To stop any more damage to my house, I decided to lure the dead away from my base. I went up to my temporary base, then I towered across with hundreds of the dead below me. From up there, I could see the full extent of the damage. There wasn't much left of my base. The dead began towering up to me. I started shooting them off as they got closer and closer. When morning came on day 100, I was ecstatic. I was alive. I'd survived 100 days. If this video gets 200 likes and some positive feedback in the comments, I'll make a part 2 where I continue on to day 200. This video took over a month to make, so if you haven't already, please subscribe. It would genuinely mean more than you know, and you'll get notified when I post the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day.